Hey everyone, it's Rihanna and welcome to Director of the Month for February of 2016. Now I am aware that it is March 2016, but I had some complications with Director of the Month this month, which is on Joel and Ethan Coen, the Coen brothers. Now with the release of their latest film, Hail Caesar, being in early February of 2016 in the USA, the UK being the UK had to release it in early March. Just to hate me. Anyway, on with the video on Joel and Ethan Coen. Now, the Coen brothers are directors that I wasn't really familiar with until it came to 2013 when their film Inside Llewyn Davis came out. Now that I study film and know a lot more about the filmmaking process, I appreciate the Coen brothers' work in Hollywood, contribution to cinema, and originality so much more than I did before. What I really admire about the Coen brothers is that they don't only direct their films, they also write and produce a lot of their films, whether that be their original screenplays from Barton Fink to the most recent Hail Caesar, or if it's an adapted screenplay like in True Grit. The Coen brothers have tackled nearly every single genre. They do gangster movies, they do romantic comedies, they do comedies, they have done musicals, they tackle drama in No Country for Old Men, comedy in both Fargo and The Big Lebowski. There is nothing that the Coen brothers can't do. They even tackled westerns in True Grit. I really appreciate that they try to tackle every single genre, that they portray original stories. Their visual comedy is incredible, and I feel like they are an actor's director. Everyone in Hollywood just wants to work with the Coen brothers. Since starting their career in Hollywood, the Coen brothers have directed 17 feature films, from their first feature film Blood Simple, which came out in 1984, to the most recent Hail Caesar in 2016. Now, there being 17 of their feature films, I couldn't possibly look at every single feature film done by the Coen brothers. I've looked at tons of their movies in order to do this video for you guys, but I'm going to focus on 6 films. So let's get into the minds of the Coen brothers.
What better way to start looking at the Coen brothers' filmography than to start at the beginning in their 1984 film Blood Simple. Blood Simple tells the story of when a rich but jealous man hires a private investigator to kill his cheating wife and her new man, but things aren't as simple as they seem. Looking at Blood Simple as the directorial debut and writing debut for the Coen brothers in cinema, you can definitely see how they've taken things from Blood Simple and used them to influence their other films. While I was watching Blood Simple, I could really see how the Coen brothers got influence from this film in their film No Country for Old Men. The way that they build tension in Blood Simple is just so perfectly done and so mirrored to how they do it in No Country for Old Men. It is unmissable as a trademark for the directors. They let the story unfold extremely slowly, building tons of tension and filming the drama in incredibly interesting and original ways. Blood Simple is not only the first film they directed, but also the first film they wrote, and from the get-go, from the start of their writing career in Hollywood, they already nailed the dialogue scenes. After watching Blood Simple, No Country for Old Men, and Barton Fink, you can see that there's a reoccurring theme of suspicion and paranoia in the Coen brothers films, especially their psychological thrillers, and in these 3 films they build tension so well, and the underlying themes become apparent in the end of the film. So I think the writing style in those 3 films are just pure genius. If you haven't seen Blood Simple yet, it's a great directorial debut by the Coen brothers. Go check it out. 4 films later, in 1996, there was the release of Fargo, which is by far one of the most loved Coen brother films. That's a neo-noir black comedy crime thriller that stars Frances McDormand as a pregnant Minnesota police chief investigating roadside homicides that ensure after a struggling car salesman hires 2 criminals to kidnap his wife. I really do think the Coen brothers like to have kidnapping stories, considering in Hail Caesar and also The Big Lebowski there is kidnapping involved. I don't know what it is about these guys. They just like kidnapping plot lines. Considering it is one of the Coen brothers' oldest films, it did take me quite a while to get into Fargo. I felt like it took a bit too long to get into the actual story, and it took a bit too long to introduce everything into the world of this small Minnesota town. Looking at Fargo from the filmmaking perspective and seeing the Coen brothers as directors, you can see the recurring themes and how they like to shoot their dialogue scenes. We all know that Quentin Tarantino is the king of run-along dialogue. I love his work, but the Coen brothers' use of shot reverse shot and visual comedy in their films makes their films far more effective. You have your simple shot reverse shot scene in a dialogue scene, but the way the Coen brothers do it make it 10 times more effective, making you feel like you are in the scene with the characters. This brings into effect the visual comedy and how they use it to their advantage. The small town setting makes everything feel a little bit more intimate, like everybody knows everyone and everything, and that's what I really love about Fargo, that it's such a simplistic story like most of their other films, but they make it into something more effective and always have those underlying themes that you get at the end of the film. Plus, I'm a sucker for black comedies with lots of violence in them. I mean, the wood chipper scene is just amazing. Now, I had no idea what to expect when I went into 1998's The Big Lebowski. All of my friends had told me they loved this film. It's a cult classic and it's completely bizarre. Jeff Bridges stars as Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski, a Los Angeles slacker and an avid bowler. After he is assaulted as a result of mistaken identity, he learns a millionaire also named Jeffrey Lebowski is the intended victim. Jeffrey Lebowski, the millionaire's trophy wife, is kidnapped and he commissions the dude to deliver the ransom to secure her release. I don't find it hard to believe that The Big Lebowski was a disappointment at the US box office and received mixed reviews at its time of release, but since then it's become a cult favourite. Big Lebowski does a lot of things. Obviously you have the iconic dialogue by the Coen brothers, the black comedy. Jeff Bridges is incredible as the dude in this film. It does so many things right, but it is incredibly bizarre. Coen brothers make a simplistic plot about the dude who bowls into something incredibly entertaining, and they make it seem so effortless. Along with Fargo, it took me a while to get into The Big Lebowski. It actually took me 3 tries to actually watch the whole film in one go. I'm not sure why. The Big Lebowski is a great film. Filmmaking wise, I just guess it isn't my favourite. I feel like The Big Lebowski and the Coen brothers comedy overall is an acquired taste. If you're into black comedy, if you're into satirical comedy, you're gonna love the Coen brothers comedy. But it took me a while to get into Fargo and The Big Lebowski because I was getting used to the style of the Coen brothers. Because they were their earlier movies and I've only really seen their most recent films, it took me a while to get used to how they do things. But I've got to say, I can understand why The Big Lebowski is a cult favourite. It has an amazing soundtrack and just the dude is one of the most iconic characters. At least now I understand the pop culture references and the "shut the fuck up Donnie" quote. Let's talk about the Coen brothers' 2007 film No Country for Old Men, which won the Best Picture award at the 2008 Oscars. It tells the story of Llewyn Moss, who is a hunter played by Josh Brolin, who gets caught in a drug scandal gone bad. The tension building in No Country for Old Men is done so masterfully. What the Coen brothers do with their minimalistic dialogue is so powerful but not so overpowering that it disrupts the tension in the film. No Country for Old Men stands out to me as a Coen brothers movie, considering a lot of their films are very comedy driven, black comedy, anything you can think of comedy wise. That is what the Coen brothers are known for in their dialogue. No Country for Old Men is straight out drama and tension. The work the Coen brothers did with Roger Deakins, who is the cinematographer of this film, is absolutely outstanding. The landscape shots of this film, the close-ups of Javier Bardem's villain in this film are absolutely perfect. This film, like most Coen brothers film, doesn't have an extremely complicated plot. It's very, very character driven and it's basically a game of cat and mouse, but it is done so perfectly. Even in the middle of this film where there is just dialogue scenes going from one character to the other, I was totally fixated on the screen just by how the Coen brothers shoot these actors and how they write their dialogue. It is just so captivating. A lot of the long-running dialogue scenes in No Country for Old Men are of characters telling stories to other characters of what they've experienced in their life, and I think those stories are the centre of what No Country for Old Men is about. It's about legends passing on and doing life lessons. Not only did No Country for Old Men win Best Picture of the Year, Javier Bardem got Best Supporting Role, which is totally deserving. His performance in this film is insane and will haunt my dreams. They also got Best Director of the Year for both of them for this film, which is totally deserving. Directing wise, I think for the Coen brothers, this one stands out the most to me just because the whole 2-hour long runtime of this film, I was hooked on screen and I just could not stop watching this masterful film. Fast forward 6 years and in 2013 we get Inside Llewyn Davis, which tells the story of a week in the life of a struggling folk musician in Greenwich Village, New York. Inside Llewyn Davis doesn't have the same type of comedy as The Big Lebowski and Fargo. It is sharply funny and incredibly realistic and too real to deal with. Telling the story of just one character and the week in the life of that character is an incredibly difficult task to do. Usually when you're watching a film that's a day in the life or a week in the life, you can get incredibly bored incredibly fast, but the work that the Coen brothers did on Inside Llewyn Davis and Oscar Isaac's performance keeps this film going for its runtime. I love both the opening and the closing shot of this film because although they are so similar to each other, so much has happened in between that time. In that week in the life of Llewyn Davis, you can see the struggles of this struggling musician. Inside Llewyn Davis isn't the most complex Coen brother movie, and as I said, it's not the funniest. It's sharply funny, but it doesn't need to be overcomplicated to be effective. Inside Llewyn Davis has the shock factor in the strangest of ways that you will not see coming. It's one of their most beautifully shot films. Honestly, Inside Llewyn Davis is gorgeous. Every frame just looks like a painting, and the songs in it are incredible as well. After looking at several films in the Coen brothers filmography, it was a really nice change to see Inside Llewyn Davis. It's simplistic and deep and realistic all at the same time, and it was really nice to see the Coen brothers change up their genre. And last but not least, we come to the Coen brothers brothers' most recent release, Hail Caesar, which tells the story of a production fixer at Capitol Pictures called Eddie Mannix, played by Josh Brolin. Now, what I find most interesting about Hail Caesar is that it's set in the 1950s. It's a homage to the golden age of cinema. It pays tons and tons of tribute to that period in Hollywood, yet visually the film is the most polished. Costume design, hair and makeup, and production design in this film are all flawless. There's not really any sign of the gritty realism I'm used to seeing in the Coen brothers films. And why I think that is so interesting is because back then, in the golden age of cinema in the 1950s, we didn't have the technology we have today to make everything look so perfect. And I think Hail Caesar parodies what was lost back then to what we have now. And of course, they're telling another original story, and back then all we had was original stories, and that is what I really loved about this film. There were other aspects I didn't love so much. Although the dialogue and the comedy in this film is one of its stronger points, I don't think it is as good as their other films. And I found, unlike most other Coen brother films that have underlying themes, this theme of communism back then in Hollywood is kind of thrown in your face a little bit. This is another reason I don't think the film is as effective as their earlier works. The fact that Hail Caesar does take place at Capitol Pictures gives it a really nice link to Barton Fink, which is the company that Barton Fink ends up writing for when he moves to Hollywood. Now, I think personally Barton Fink is my favourite Coen brother movie, and I love the underlying themes of that film and how they portray Hollywood as this dark, gritty underworld. In Hail Caesar, I don't think the themes are as subtle as they are in their previous films, and I think that's what threw me off balance in this film. Is that to say it's a terrible movie and not a director's trademark for the Coen brothers? Definitely not. If you're a really big fan of the Coen brothers, you are going to adore Hail Caesar. I love the Coen brothers filmography, I love their list of works in cinema, and I think Hail Caesar really deserves its place there.
I hope you guys enjoyed this journey through the minds of Joel and Ethan Coen as writers and directors in Hollywood, and I hope you go and check out their films because of this video. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and any critical things you can think about of Director of the Month, leave them down below, and any director suggestions, leave them there as well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing lots more TV related and movie related videos for you guys very soon. All my social media, including my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and Letterboxd, will be down below in the description as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you very soon. Bye!